Holy Signature. My name is Lisa Connor, and I'm an My name is Lisa Connor, and I'm an executive board member with SpedPac. In addition to ABA, Boston Public Schools is working in conjunction with Children's Hospital on a comprehensive behavioral health program. Currently, there's 10 schools that it's being implemented in throughout the schools to increase positive behavior and learning for all students. So it's not just those students with ABA services. It's really to do a system-wide or a school-wide initiative to increase positive behavior and learning. And tonight we have the Mason Pilot Elementary School in Roxbury school psychologist Mary Cohen, who's going to give the presentation on comprehensive behavioral health model.
Thank you, Lisa. I am in a witness protection program, so I probably shouldn't be taped. I'm just joking. My name is Mary Cohen, and I am a school psychologist in the Boston Public Schools. I've worked in Boston for about 20 years, give or take, and I currently have the assignment at the Mason Pilot School, which is an inclusion school in the district in Roxbury. I'm also part of what we're trying to roll out in Boston, which is called the Comprehensive Behavioral Health Model. And I want to break that down for you tonight. And I don't want to be too wordy because I know it's getting late and you heard a lot of people speaking. And I'd be glad to talk to you further about it. And I guess they're going to post some stuff on the website as well if you want more information. The Comprehensive Behavioral Health Model is not special ed focused. It's whole school focused. And it's really trying to catch problems before they occur. And it's trying to provide kids who need services before they need an IEP. So really trying to catch kids who are struggling with social, emotional problems while it's still a little problem and doesn't become a big problem. So it's a preventative model. It's trying to look at kids' behavior from day one, from the time they enter school, and every year trying to increase our capacity to really deal with kids' issues so that kids don't end up with IEPs with behavioral problems, or that there's not little problems don't become big problems. And how we're proposing to do this is one of the features of the model is to do what we call a universal behavioral health screening, so that teachers screen all the kids that they have in their classrooms so that they can keep track of what kind of issues are popping up with their kids. So it's a 34-item online screener where teachers observe their kids and they give feedback through this mechanism of saying, okay, these are the kind of issues I see arising in my kids. So a lot of times in schools we're very good at catching the kids who are acting out, the kids who are having behavior problems. We're not as good at catching the problems of kids who more internalize, they're more anxious, more depressed kind of kids. Kids who struggle more with attention issues, that have cognitive issues that impact their ability to succeed. So what we hope to do with the comprehensive behavioral health model is not only screen and find the issues, but to find methods of intervention so that we can match a child's issues with an intervention. So if a child is having difficulty, for example, if you have a child who's highly anxious and shuts down in the class and isn't able to complete work, then we come up with an intervention that will allow them to feel more capable of being successful in school, of helping them, whether it's through individual counseling, whether it's through a social skills group, whether it's, it's typically, an individual or a small group sort of intervention. Or if there's modifications that teachers can make in classrooms to allow children to feel more successful. So I'm kind of boiling a big model down to, like taking an ox and making a bouillon cube out of it, but that's sort of the overall picture of what we're trying to do with this model. And Children's Hospital has has partnered with us around doing this model in the Boston Public Schools. They've committed to 7 years of working with us, not only giving us access to personnel, but also helping to fund the model so that we have funding behind this so we can buy materials for schools. Part of the work is also doing what we call social emotional learning curriculum with children. We consider that sort of a universal intervention that every child should have. So, for example, at the Mason School, we're using something called Second Step, which is a curriculum that teachers use twice a week for about a half an hour, and they teach with the children, work with the children on how to learn how to solve problems, basically. So they learn about empathy, they learn about how do you deal with conflict when it comes up. Because oftentimes our children come to school, just as we need to teach them how to read and write, we need them to teach them how to solve problems, how to deal with conflict, how to deal with others, how to, be successful as a human being in their ability to make friendships and keep friendships and deal with teachers that they might have difficulties with. So social emotional learning curriculum is part of the model that we're talking about. It's also focused on helping kids understand what rules exist in the school and how to comply with rules and how to understand rules, because sometimes we find kids coming to school and we sort of expect them to understand, you file down the hall quietly. In classrooms, these are the classroom expectations, and to sort of expect, kids will know that. But oftentimes we find kids coming to school that don't understand how to sort of the structure of a school day and how to figure that all out. So part of the comprehensive behavioral health model is really breaking skills down for kids and teaching them in a more systematic way, and in what we like, a positive way. So it's not a list of do not do this, do not do that, do not do this. It's saying, okay, our expectations are that when you're filing down the hallway, that you will file silently, that you will keep your hands to yourself, that you'll pass the door to the next person. So you break down the behaviors, sort of in the way that Seth was talking about, in a more discrete way, so the kids can really understand in a more complex way what the expectations are. And there's also finding reinforcers. But this year at the Mason School, we held a mascot contest and created a contest with the kids so that they could sort of get that school spirit going. And we had 40 entries. We're a school of about 250. And we are now the Mason Mighty Meerkats. So, and the reason the Meerkat was chosen, the boy who created this entry liked it because meerkats work together and they're a community and they look out for each other. So now we have that sort of thing to kind of build on. So now we have Meerkat Tickets. So now as staff members, if we see kids behaving in a way that's meerkat worthy, they get a ticket. And they get to take tickets and earn what we call social rewards. So they might earn, as a class, if they get a certain amount of Meerkat tickets, they get to wear pajamas one day on a Friday. Low-level kind of things. It doesn't cost the school any money, but it's reinforcing to kids, and it gives them something sort of like that idea, all for one, one for all. We're working towards something as a group. So that's sort of the nutshell of what I'm talking about with our model. We're working on training staff in our schools to help frame behaviors in a more positive way with kids, so that, and knowing how to respond when kids are having issues, and really knowing how to use this behavioral screening, how to take the results and really give the interventions that kids need, so that kids don't struggle and they don't struggle academically, because that's really what it's about, right? We want kids to learn and to feel successful in school. And studies have shown that in schools where you emphasize these kind of things, that learning increases from 11 to 17%, like scores go up and all that kind of good stuff that we worry about as adults in children's lives. We want them to learn and we want them to do well. And if you don't, I've worked in schools for years now, if you don't have the behaviors under control, the learning suffers. So this is a way of addressing kids at the level that they need so that they feel successful and they don't end up needing to be pulled out to special ed classes for kids with behavioral issues. Because that's really a dead end for a lot of kids who end up in those kinds of settings, that they don't necessarily get the skills that they need and they're kind of pulled away from the general population. I'm a big inclusion advocate myself, and I feel like kids who can stay in a regular ed setting as much as possible, that's where they're likely to have more success. So I'm going to stop there. If you have any questions, for me at this point. I'd be glad to come back again too and let you know how we are progressing over time. We're in 10 schools this year, ranging from K to 12, and next year we're adding 10 more schools to the cohort. We're not trying to roll it out district-wide right away because we want to really build capacity and have teachers have the chance to get the professional development they need and to do it right and not try to rush the process. So that's where we're at this point. So thank you so much.
So you imagine that this is going to hopefully work for kids who are in subset classes with behavior skills that can bring them back into a more inclusive setting?
That's the hope. We haven't dealt yet with a school that has an emotional impairment strand. And that's because those kind of kids are also, I know a lot of you have autism strand kids. There are also EI strand schools that in the district that have the kids with substantially separate classrooms for kids with behavioral and emotional issues. So the hope too is that they would be a part of this model and help them work themselves back out of special ed classes, because a lot of times they end up there and they stay there. And we would like that trend to be reversed, because Massachusetts has one of the highest rates of kids in substantially separate programs for kids with emotional impairment.
And you, how are you going to measure the kind of data you collect?
Oh, thank you for asking that. I'm a data nerd too, just like that. This BIMUS is the model, the screening tool that we're using. There's also a progress monitoring piece to it. So you can take the kids are put into risk pyramids. So the kids, it's a pyramid. And the tier 1 kids are considered that they're responding to things, they're okay. Then there's a some risk category and a high risk category. And you take the kids who are in the some risk and high risk, and you provide an intervention and do progress monitoring around how are they improving with the intervention that you're providing. So it's a pretty cool tool. We just started using it this year, so we're still getting used to it and hopefully finding it to be a useful instrument.
I just wanted to add that Mary's presentation will be available on the SpedPac website. If anybody wants it, www.BostonSpedPac.org.
Thank you, Lisa. And Lisa has been an awesome asset at the Mason School, and I really appreciate having worked with her over the years. So thank you all for letting me come and present to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I guess that's it. We'll cut it early. Everybody collect your children. And thank you all for coming. And next month is elections.
Thank you. Thank you.